I want to welcome you to No Nonsense Nonprofits. Hi, I'm Sandy Ray, founder of Sandra E. Ray CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. Today, we're talking about why overhead costs are a good investment for your organization. Many nonprofits assume incorrectly that overhead spending is a negative thing. We're pressured to minimize administrative and fundraising and operational costs to appeal to misconceptions by donors. So let's address that overhead myth head on. The overhead myth suggests that nonprofits should reduce their administrative and fundraising costs. Now, we're not talking about overspending, we're talking about what's effective. This just really simplifies or oversimplifies the issue that we're spending too much on administrative and fundraising. This myth kind of came about in the 1990s when charity watchdog organizations were looking for a very simple way to compare organizations. And they came up with this 80 to 90% of program expense as a ratio to total expenses. That was an effective use of nonprofit funds and resources. And this was a nonprofit compared to other nonprofits that were using the donor money effectively. And this really led to underfunding in critical areas. In 2013, one of the watchdog organizations finally realized this. They came out with a letter. They acknowledged the limitations of this kind of comparison. And they were encouraging organizations to shift the conversation towards outcomes, sustainability, and the impact that we're having in our communities. I want to talk about why overhead spending is actually beneficial to our organization. First and foremost, we want to talk about staffing and staff retention. We want to have fair salaries for our people. We want to pay them a fair salary to reduce our turnover because it takes more money to train somebody than it does to retain somebody. So we want to ensure that we have that sustainability with our staffing and maintain that expertise. So we also want to improve our staff's skills. So we want to invest in professional development. We want to train our staff. We want them to continuously improve. We want their skills to align with best practices for our organization. And we want them to be experts in our mission so that we can better serve our communities. The next area of overhead I want to talk about is technology and infrastructure. Investments in technology really streamline our operations. We can enhance our communications, we can improve data collection, we can speed up some processes, and this helps us make better, quicker, more effective decisions. I want to talk about marketing and communication. Effective marketing ensures that the work that we're doing is reaching a wide audience, whether it be our constituents to bring more people into our programs, whether it be to potential donors to let them know what we're doing and bring more funds into our programs, or reaching out to volunteers to get volunteers to do things for us at no cost or very little cost. That's an effective use of resources. I want to talk about fundraising specifically. Many people think that fundraising, the overhead costs associated with fundraising, is an unnecessary cost. We can get volunteers to do this. Fundraising is a specialized skill. And so we really need to invest in fundraising, whether in our people, of course, in their professional development, of course, but also we've got things like events that we're hosting, maybe a capital campaign or annual campaign or a special campaign of some sort that we're doing a drive. Maybe there's a special need and we're doing a drive for that. We want to have the ability to build relationships with long-term major donors. These are the things that are going to sustain our organization, help us grow, so that we can have a bigger impact in our communities. So why do these common misconceptions persist? Why do donors think that they want all of their money to go directly to programs? Again, those ratios, those 90% of expenditures should be program, is really a simplified way to compare organizations. And it doesn't tell the full picture. It doesn't take into account the uniqueness of your organization. To say that every nonprofit has to have a 90% program expenditure rate doesn't take into the type of nonprofit that you are, what your mission is, what your size is for your organization. Think about how your model, your mission leads into it, and try to compare yourself to other organizations like yours. That's more effective in those types of ratios. Let me give you an example. What if there's an organization who you're doing meal preparation, or you get a lot of in-kind donations, and maybe it's clothing that has to be sorted through? Those kinds of things, meal preparation, sorting through those donations, those can be done by volunteers. That is a no cost or little to no cost to the organization. It is program related. So if we had staffing that was doing that, is that really cost effective? Is that a good resource or use of our resources? I would argue no. So if we've got volunteers in the programming process that are doing things that paid staff doesn't have to do, that they can focus on the things that required a more specialized skill, like a social worker or a chef, that is a way to reduce our program costs, to reduce our outlay, get expertise, but still get that work done. I'm just saying, it's not a cost effective to hire people just because you want that 90% program ratio. We need to do a really better job to explain to donors, to explain to the community how we are spending our funds, and that we are looking at ways of taking the best advantage of our resources across not only the program services, but administrative and fundraising as well. And we do this because there's a loss. We fear that we're going to lose the donors' trust. So what do we do to be able to use our funds effectively and still maintain that donor trust if our program percentage is below 90%? And the first thing I want to say is to be transparent and provide context. So yes, our program percentage is 70%, but we have X number of volunteers doing this type of work. If we were to pay someone, the value of that service is XYZ. That is very simple for other people to understand, and that would bring that percentage up. But we're spending resources to guide these volunteers to do a lot of work for us for free. So you really want to leverage your data. You want to leverage your storytelling. You want to invite donors in to witness what's happening, whether it be in person or video through social media. We want to explain that we are aiming for sustainability, not just efficiency today, or to bring that program percentage up. So we really are talking about advocating for a new definition of accountability. Yes, we are spending only 70% of our expenditures on our program, but these are our outcomes. This is the impact that we're having. This is how we are able to do that and have this increased impact in our organization. So I really want you to embrace the impact that overhead has in your organization. Let's get rid of the myth that overhead is bad. Overhead is a crucial part of building sustainability and effectiveness in our organizations. By investing in staff, technology, our fundraising efforts, our infrastructure, all of this is not frivolous spending. It is essential to create a bigger impact in our communities. Shifting the focus to the bigger picture, we can provide a better service and demonstrate our true value to our donors. So I encourage you to communicate your overhead spending transparently. Think about your mission and how that overhead links to your mission. This is what will help you gain your donors' trust. Show them how we're allocating funds that they're donating where they're needed, and that we're using those funds wisely in order to build a sustainable and impactful future for our organization. I hope this was helpful for you today. And if you have any questions about this or other topics, please put that in the comments. And of course, we always appreciate your likes. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Remember, creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. If you're dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, we'd love to help you cut through the noise.